It's New Year's Eve, which means it's time to reflect and reminisce about the year. This time, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do our very own Upfront Wrapped. We'll select our top artist, our most watched moment, our biggest hit, and our watching character. All will be revealed as we go through them. Let's get started with our football top artist. This is your favourite player. It doesn't have to be the best player in the world or the best player in the WSL with the highest stats or whatever, but just a player who has done something unforgettable this season or just entertained you week in, week out. So
I think that clarification is really important because I feel like people will immediately come for you for your opinion. So this isn't us like picking, we think this player is the best player in the WSL. It is just our faves.
Of course, 100%. It's just someone we think that has been super special, maybe had like a really standout season, maybe gone unnoticed a little bit this year, but someone that we really, really rate and has a bright future ahead of them with their club. So, yeah, go on, Rach, reveal your top artist.
Okay, so this player for me, I've found throughout the season watching her, for club and country, that just every so often she'll do something and I'll be like, oh, God, she's good. She's such a good player. And I find when I say that out loud about a player on the reg, that they're obviously doing something right, that I just really rate them. And that is Emily Fox. I think she's been superb for Arsenal, particularly since, well, even under Jonas Eidevall, I thought she was doing well when Arsenal were struggling. But since he's left and under Renee, I think she's, another step above again, which I think has been brilliant. Solid at the back, really effective coming forward. And I just remember watching during the USA game and saying, her and Germa, every time I was just like, God, they're so good. Like, they're just so comfortable, confident, calm on the ball, read the game really well. And that is the player I've said that to myself quite a bit about this season. So that one was relatively easy, I think, for me.
I think it's a really good choice. I think she's I don't want to say goes under the radar because I think she does get her flowers, but
defenders often.
Yeah, I think they don't always get the credit that they deserve in terms of, like Russo's obviously found form now and everyone's kind of shining a massive light on her at the moment. But I feel like then it takes the shine off of what Emily Fox has been doing throughout a really turbulent start of the season for Arsenal. And I do think she's like one of those players who has gelled supernaturally with the squad, like does her job, very rarely makes mistakes, is kind of a bit of a constant for Arsenal, which I absolutely rate, which is super hard to come into in the kind of position they've been in. So, yeah, Rach, do you know what? I rate it. I back it.
Thank you.
That's a great choice. That is a great choice. And will also, really go down well with our US listeners. So, yeah, always helpful. Okay, my pick. The OG, Grace Clinton. It's not even that. Everyone knows about the brilliance of Grace Clinton. She sort of went from, if you'd have said to people, who's Grace Clinton 2 years ago, they would have gone, yeah, I think, she's sort of in and around things, but don't really know too much about her. 2 years later, she is making her mark in the WSL and also on the international stage. And I absolutely rate what she did with Spurs last year. I think she brought that kind of energy, that pizzazz. She was a big part of, them reaching the FA Cup final despite not being able to play. And then even now, sort of, making that transition back into Man United. And I think everyone was a little bit worried about how she sort of, fit back in or, the turbulence that was going on at Man United. And for someone of that age to have the kind of level-headedness to go back into your parent club and play the way that you do and prove that you should be there and that you're at that level, and to start the season super strong, couple of goals under your belt. Her hold-up play is amazing. I think her off-the-ball play is amazing. Her communication, and also I'm really loving her on socials at the moment. Her and Celine Bizet did this amazing jumped on a TikTok trend doing this like what everyone finds
TK
in
Maxx.
TK Maxx, yeah, and they were running around saying if you by any chance got a golden monkey with massive biceps carrying a disco ball
with a blue hat,
no legs. And there was a bit of personality coming through there. So yeah, I really, really rate her. I think she's got a really bright future ahead of her. Really excited to kind of see, touch wood, how she gets on at the Euros. Please touch wood. But I just think she's really come onto the radar and made an impact. And I think she's sort of one of the most exciting young prospects in the WSL and for England. So yeah, Gracie G.
Great choice.
Thank you, mate.
Rate that. Could have picked it for you. I know you're a big fan of Grace. And I think you're right. Like, For me, the most impressive thing, other than her footballing skills, is her mentality at such a young age, because you've gone through some of the things she's been through in terms of like managing different clubs, managing different situations, coming in, getting her England start. And for me, there's a lot of hype around her, understandably. And I think she's managing that well, because that's always my concern with a young player, is when everyone starts saying, the next big thing, it's the next big thing, and then you go back to United, but like on TV and stuff, and like it's the next big thing, like, you know, and then she has to go back to United and has to perform, and she does, you know, then she plays for England there in that last international window, and again it was, she's the next big thing, she's the next, you know, and that's a lot to carry, and I feel like she's so far managing that well, and I do hope England kind of protect her a little bit, because she is young and there is a lot of expectation growing on her, but she appears to be managing it great. I did interview her right back when she first got called up to the senior squad. She didn't get any minutes at that time, and I got to sit down with her and have a little chat, and like, to be honest, normally when you chat to players who maybe are making their debut or have only just come into the squad, not often the chattiest. Sometimes it's hard with younger players. They've not like had a lot of exposure to media and stuff like that. She was great. She was such a chatty kind of player, you know, receptive to questions, thought about her answers, and like really engaging. And I thought, yeah, from a young age to be like that was super impressive. So exciting things, but managing the expectations, because I don't want her to feel too much pressure. I want her to be still enjoying her football.
Come on, Grace, you've got this. Right, moving on. Most watched moment. This is a goal or a specific moment you watched the most this year. It doesn't have to be a goal, but just a moment that you replay in your head, lives rent-free over and over again. So, Rach, tee this one up. Come on, let's go. What are you saying?
Okay, well, first of all, this was really hard. You know, trying to remember all the stuff that's happened this season is difficult. Trying to remember stuff that's happened this year is near impossible with so many games. I think we totted it up 133 live games between us.
It is hard in December where you still got to like the half of this season, the January to May or June of last season, and then like what happened kind of in summer, some of the international fixtures, like it is a hot mess. Yeah. Well, I went for something a little bit more recent and a little bit maybe close to my heart. It might be a surprise, it might not come as a surprise to some of our listeners, but this is what I picked. These are the things that run around my head when I'm thinking back to this game. Is it the Ireland-Wales game?
That was so unnecessary.
Forward by Shaw. Chase on for Harwood. Lass puts it into the middle. It's a third goal for England. Rachel Maltby. Lass to pull that ball back into the middle. Johnson scores, and that secures it for England. And means the end of a World Cup dream for Mexico. After an evening of high drama here in Santiago, England 4, Mexico 2.
So, if you don't know what that sound is, or the names of those players, they're the under-17s. I was out at the World Cup in the Dominican Republic in October, I want to say. Chloe, was it October? Maybe.
Yep, we didn't hear enough of it. You living your best life on a beach. Go on.
Yeah, and that was the game where, you know, if they won the two opening games, they would get like they had to win this game to get through. And they came out, they were 2-1 down. Went down to 10 players in the 50th minute. Ridiculous red card, by the way. Still absolutely unacceptable when you look back on it. Absolutely should not have been given. And it just kind of felt like they weren't going to get back into it. It was not a good game to watch. It wasn't an enjoyable game. Really bitty, really broken up. No flow at all in the game. Bloody hell, the last 10 minutes, it all came to life. And I was like the only photographer down that end as well. And to have the goals scored and set up, the first goal scored by a defender, the second goal set up by a defender. Like, the defenders played such a key part in this game. They're losing and they're so high up the pitch, willing to kind of go for it. To score obviously the third goal and then the fourth goal to really seal it was really cool. And like the excitement on the sideline was unreal. The photos I got of them celebrating was so cool. So that one is one that I think back to. And I also think back to the penalties when they played against Japan.
Rachel Maltby. Goalkeeper couldn't quite keep it out. Honda for Japan. It's kept out by Dowsett. Japan missed for the second time. Shaw has done it. 2-2 after full time, and England have won it convincingly on penalties to move forward to the semi-final to meet Spain.
What was amazing about that was that Dowsett was subbed on at the death of extra time to come in for penalties. She hadn't played a minute of the under-17s.
I remember
and she saved
that.
2 penalties. And that, for me, is one of... If we had, like, I don't know, this isn't football, but that kind of decision to do that by Natalie Henderson was something that, like, was massive. Like, it just sticks out for me this
it's just
year.
the riskiness of it, though. Like, obviously, it paid off, but, like, you've got to really be able to stick to your gun and live and die by that decision. But I mean, when it pays off, you look like an absolute hero. And it I remember I was talking about that on the pod and thinking, Christ, that was a big move. That was a big move.
Yeah.
But,
so they're mine. And yeah, I just thought it was a really fun tournament, and they did a really impressive job against some really tough teams. So yeah.
Oh man, I had massive FOMO not being out there to like watch it in that kind of environment. I just feel like it was such a great tour. I know it didn't end the way they wanted it to, but yeah, I mean, it was such a great tournament to kind of like hear your experiences of, and kind of like, yeah, that culture must have been incredible. But yeah, really great. Really, really like that. That was really heartwarming. Give me goosebumps listening to some of that audio, like from some of those moments. Yeah,
love that.
Was really, really nice.
All right, give me yours. Talk to our listeners. Tell me, tee it up. What do we got?
Okay, it was the game that everyone was looking forward to once the fixtures were drawn. I think everyone was a little bit nervous from the WSL side. Wasn't too sure how it was going to go, but it ended up being one of the most beautiful games from a WSL side I had seen. Like, from a tactical perspective, it was an absolute masterclass. And this had come off the back of a side that hadn't produced or hadn't felt like they'd really reached this level of performance that much in the WSL so far. So this performance kind of came out of absolutely bloody nowhere, and it was just brilliant to watch. It was just breathtaking. Like, everyone on socials was popping off, and this again was quite recent, only in October, early October. So yeah, this is my moment.
Lays out, spots the run of Shaw, who is onside and away from the last defender. Bunny Shaw has scored another. 2 for City. Has that sealed 3 points and a potential famous victory against the European champions?
I mean, what else? What a game. I remember us being on our WhatsApp when it was all popping off, and I think it was surprising enough. I think it not super surprising, but I think the way that Man City dominated that game against Barcelona. I mean, everyone was expecting that Barcelona were going to win that game, and I know like the fortunes have slightly shifted somewhat with the recent game a couple of weeks ago, but it was just pure. I don't even know, there aren't even enough explaining words to kind of like put into words like how I felt watching some of these moments. I mean, Naomi Lizelle, 36th minute with her goal, Bunny Shaw, 77th minute, and I think it wasn't just those goals that were incredible in themselves, but it was the way that Man City completely dominated Barcelona. I mean, I'm trying to have a look at the stats now. Only had 40% of the possession, Man City, but what they did with it was like they were just comfortable to kind of be out of possession for long periods of time, and Barcelona just looked, for one of the rare occasions, just completely out of place, and the crowd was amazing. Obviously, having a big fixture like that in the Joy Stadium was just absolutely unreal. I just it was one of those moments I just thought, Man City, if you play like that every single week, like, the title is yours. Like, not only the Champions League title but the WSL title. But yeah, Rach, what were your thoughts?
To put that into context about the possession as well, because Man City are a possession-based team. They're 2 possession-based teams coming up against each other, and oftentimes when that happens, teams that are used to having possession struggle to adapt to not having it. And like Man City, I think a recent stat I saw, they have something like an average of 69% possession across their games, which is the highest possession stat for a team in a season so far. So it's really impressive. So for them to be so comfortable with just the 40% made that all the more, like, when you start picking out those stats and kind of putting them into context, it just really shows how impressive that performance was. I had major FOMO because I was watching Arsenal get battered by Bayern. So
nice.
Yeah, that's been the difficult thing about having 3 teams in the Champions League. I think this season is like knowing which fixture to go to. And Sophie did do the reverse leg in Barcelona, God love her, a few weeks back, and had to watch them get beat 3-0. But understandable again in the context of the injuries, etc., and Barcelona at home. But yeah, I think that's probably one of the matches of the season so far when it comes to a WSL team.
100%, and I think that was it though. Even though they had sort of 40% possession, it never felt like that. It felt like it was, they had more in a way because of the patience that they were. Barcelona weren't creating a shed ton of chances, so it didn't ever feel like they were that big a threat. That it was just a game that kind of lives rent free in my head at the moment. Right, okay, biggest new hit. This is your favourite arrival in the WSL, whether it be a player or a manager. You can choose either one. So, Rach, who are you going for?
This one I found tricky, and I was going through the teams and their various signings, and there have been some great signings, that I was excited about and that are performing well. But I found it tricky to just pick one that's really blown me away. So I've gone for a manager instead. I've gone for Dario Vidicic. I think we didn't know a lot about him before he came in. Obviously a lot of change going on at the club. Again, it was another club with lots of ins and outs, which is difficult for any manager to manage. But coming into the WSL, every new manager has said it, it's hard. It's a hard league to be in, particularly if you're not in the top 4 and have a lot of structures that have been in place for a long time and funding and all that kind of stuff. So for him to come into Brighton, which is a well-resourced club, but it's still a club that I feel is in transition, has been incredible. And I think he's brought a really brave style of football. He's got a load of players that are quite a few new players in who have gelled really well together. I don't know how much he was involved in the signings. I know that's kind of a difficult thing when you're coming in, and how much actual involvement he had in bringing those players in. But the players they brought in were really good signings, and they're performing. And yeah, for a long time they were 3rd in the league, which was super impressive. I think they finished now in 5th, I think it is, at the moment, but still in touching distance. And they've been the marker of the top and everybody else, and they've actually stayed in that top, and now the gap is between them and the rest of the table. And I think it's been super impressive to come in, new league, relatively new squad, and to come and perform the way they have and be so committed to your principles, and to have such a clear vision that you can look at that, and within a couple of games you're like, I know the kind of football he wants to play, which I think is really impressive. And it's been an exciting watch, so I'm going to give it to Dario.
No, but I think that's a really, really great choice. I think, it feels like he's really got the best out of some of the players, and especially some of the new players, but very experienced players who have come in, and also some of the new players who are looking to sort of build their reputation in the league. And I see the way that they play now, and I just feel like even the bravery of playing out from the back, they're exciting to watch. I feel the fans are getting behind them. Sitting in 5th place at the moment, I think is absolutely incredible. For them to be kind of in and around almost like the Champions League.
Well, they were 3rd for quite a bit.
I think it's that. It's like, where did that come from? This is a team that we kept on talking about season after season as being part of that relegation zone, with that weird horse analogy that we kept making, and now they're in a completely different space. So yeah, I really rate that. I think he's done wonders, and I hope that continues.
I feel like you've gone for a similar vibe to me.
Yeah, I think it's someone who's no one really knew anything about. But 2 months ago, everyone was like, couldn't pick her out of a lineup, essentially, even though she'd played previously. And then now coming into Arsenal, that probably gives it away a little bit. Renee Sleggers, I mean, what she's done for Arsenal is nothing short of a bloody miracle. Obviously, everyone knows they had such a turbulent start to the season, loss after loss, not getting the results that everyone expected from them. Sitting and dwindling sort of somewhere around the sort of 6th and 7th place in the table. Obviously then all the turbulence that happened with Jonas leaving, and kind of all the criticism that was ramping up around their performances, and players not converting chances and making all these passes and not putting the ball in the back of the net. Comes in Renee, and the whole mentality of Arsenal I feel has completely shifted. And I think maybe there was this expectation that, yeah, of course there's always going to be this new manager bounce, but it doesn't feel like that. I feel like she's been in charge for so many games now that actually you can see that kind of consistency. Russo can't stop scoring.
What did she give her? Like, just like Weetabix? I don't know, but she said one thing to her. It was like, you know, when you have those sleeper cells and you just say one word and they activate. I feel like she figured out what to say to Russo to kind of get her love of the game back, and she's playing with like so much enjoyment now.
Honestly, like when you look at some of the way the players were, you know, really like downtrodden after games, after the Emirates, the cameras used to zone in them. Some of the players would be crying, they'd be huddling together, trying to regroup. Now, when you look at like the celebrations that are happening and the joy on their faces and like the happiness that they feel, and Russo finding her form, but other players also find, and I just think it's just gelling. There's something about, I think maybe because she's played previously, like she's still a young manager, she gets it, she understands. We still don't know if she's going to continue as the manager. I mean, I don't know why Arsenal are being so
I'd give it to her now,
reluctant.
at least until the end of the season.
100%, just confirm it, and then at least she's not having this thing like overhanging, or maybe she already knows, maybe it's already a done deal and we just don't know about it from a press side. But I just really rate what she's done with the squad. I mean, sitting where they are now, third place, yes, 7 points off of Chelsea,
but within touching distance of City.
100%, literally 1 point off of City, currently in Champions League contention, and I probably back them to make the Champions League next year. So yeah, I just think she's been an absolute brilliant thing for them. I think 100%. What are your thoughts, Rach?
I want to give a shout out to the Arsenal fans, because at that final Champions League game, in the absolute deluge of rain, obviously singing some wonderful songs, but they've got some great ones for Renee, and they sing to Wham's Last Christmas. And then they sing that whole bit, and then they're like, this year to save me from tears, I'll give it to Renee Sleggers.
Oh, I rate that. So I rate that. I love that she's got a little song now.
I just love to have like a manager cam or like a player cam when they're being sung about. I just want to see their faces when they're singing like basically, protect my heart, Renee. I'm going to give it to you this Christmas.
Well, she's done so much for the fans. She's given them something to smile about. But yeah, she is absolutely 100%. My biggest new hit, despite I know the fact that she's been at Arsenal for a while, but she's like the new manager hit. Right, I've been looking forward to this one, really looking forward to this one. It's kept me up at night thinking about all the various ways in which I can describe you, Rachel. So this one is watching character. Each of us will need to describe what kind of football fan we think the other is. Spotify Wrapped had some very weird descriptions like vampire permanent wave rock and coastal grandmother funky groove pop.
That's 100% AI, isn't it?
It's
AI generated.
That's a fucking hot mess. But what descriptions are we giving each other? I've thought long and hard. I will let you go first.
I feel like you're going to be mean.
No, I wouldn't say mean. I wouldn't say mean. I'd say honest.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did some research into this. I had a look at some of Spotify's, and I kind of decided to try and base one around a Spotify one that exists.
Oh, okay.
So the one that I picked, the Spotify description, first of all.
Yep.
It's a roboticist.
A roboticist?
Yeah. And their description is, Spotify says the roboticist is aimed at people who like to hit play, kick back, and let the clever algorithms work their magic track after track. So I'm calling you a bougie roboticist.
Bougie?
Yeah, you like to kick back on the couch with a nice glass of red, or maybe some sourdough toast on a weekend morning.
I do like doing that.
Or in the comforts of a fancy box. And then you hit play and you let the clever football players work their magic game after game.
I really rate that, actually. That's exactly what I am. I do like kicking back. I do like just watching the magic happen. And I do like that from the comfort of really nice spaces. I am not a cagoule wearing general admission type of gal anymore. And I you know what, that's just what's happened, really.
Yeah, bougie roboticist, there you go.
Okay, I really rate that. I didn't actually look at the... No. And do you know what? I will take that on the chin, to be fair, and we can stay friends. I hope that we can stay friends after my one.
I don't think we're going to.
So the Spotify... I didn't actually look at the Spotify Wrapped descriptions. I just went on just you, really. Just, you know, after these years and years of friendship. I mean, we did go to FA Drinks a couple of weeks back in the pissing down rain at Wembley, and Rachel referred to me as her best friend, or one of her best friends, or closest friends. And that stuck with me.
Don't make me regret it.
I think you regret it most weeks. So I didn't go with a Spotify Wrapped definition. I just went with my own thing, which I think really nicely summarises who you are, and that is angry Irish stat head Nana. And just to explain that, I think
I don't think it needs explanation, does it?
I think it's fairly kind of self-explanatory, but obviously, I mean, the Irish thing is definitely self-explanatory, but your Irishness does obviously pervade most of the sort of commentary that we do on the games, especially when it comes to kind of the international fixtures. Stathead, you are one of the most experienced and knowledgeable people on everything to do with possession and tactics and who's gone where and who's doing what. I mean, I don't know if there's anything that you don't know about women's football, and sometimes
there is, but thank you.
I don't think there is. So that's the nice bit, the stat head bit. And then Nana, just because, like, obviously, like, you have a rabbit that lives at home and you sort of, like, you have the fire and, like, you're just very cute sometimes. So, yeah. And then the angriness, I think, comes from, like, where you're, like, you get really het up about, like, some of the issues that are going on in women's football. And, so
maybe I need to
angry
tone it
Irish,
down.
stat head, Nana is my Spotify rap for you.
It's not as bad as
friends?
I thought. Yeah, it's not as bad as I thought it would be, to be honest.
Yeah, I
So
could
I'll
have gone
take
super
that.
savage.